What's going on, everyone? The S&P 500 had about 50% of stocks green today and the other 50% red. Looking at the market, it is still very close to its all-time highs, and we're starting to see a little bit of craziness creep into the market, which is definitely a good thing. Tesla stock especially had a great day today, and tomorrow is set to be the biggest day of the week as everyone has been waiting for. The powerhouse stock Nvidia is set to report earnings, and as we all know, when this stock moves, it has a giant influence on the market. And on top of that, we also have an FOMC minutes report as well. So we have a lot to cover today. Stick with us all the way until the end, and then towards the end of today's video, we also have a $2.2 million big money trade. But with that being said, Tom, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, the SPY actually consolidated today right on that all-time high that we were talking about, Mike. That is a huge level right here overhead around 531.50, and the SPY just could not break out above there today. But I have a feeling that traders weren't really pushing for it too much right now, right? Because we're all waiting for those Nvidia earnings to come out tomorrow. But I'm definitely going to be keeping that 531.50 area on watch, Mike. That is a crucial resistance, especially ahead of such a crucial event tomorrow with those Nvidia earnings. But for today, there was actually a pretty good move out of Tesla, like you mentioned, closed up 6.66%. I don't know if I want to hear that number too much tonight, but either way, it's a pretty good move up to 187.60 here. That was a good push towards the end of the day, Mike. Whenever I'm watching Tesla here in the short term, everybody's been hating on them, right? Like, they've been falling down quite a bit. There's been a lot of issues with their margins lately. Obviously, they've been cutting prices of vehicles and etc. But there is actually some good news that came out today with their semi-trucks that I found very interesting. So they unveiled some new details today with their semi-trucks, saying that there's been a lot of testing going on and etc. And I will say this, PepsiCo actually is set to be receiving an additional 50 trucks in its fleet for the pilot program for this. So that's interesting. They're currently testing 35 trucks, and they've done like millions of miles of testing this far. So I think that's very interesting, Mike. We might start to see a lot more of these electric semi-trucks on the market here soon without any huge weight or anything like that on them. The long range ones have a range of 500 miles. That's pretty big, Mike, for a electric semi truck like this. I know a lot of people really say that you need to have that 500 to 1,000 mile range, but it's very interesting for Tesla, and I think it's bringing back a little bit of hype here in the short term, which Tesla desperately needs.
No doubt. And Elon initially debuted these semi-trucks all the way back in 2017, and it's already halfway through 2024 at this point, and it's expected that the semi-trucks will be, I guess you could say, more mainstream, closer to 2026 and beyond. But the main thing is that this news is starting to, I guess you could say, bring in some optimism to Tesla stock. As you already said, Tom, the stock has taken quite the beating in the short term, and it's still pretty far off its all-time highs of around $412 a share that it made all the way back in November of 2021. Of course, there were some splits in there as well, but either way, the stock is a decent amount off its all-time high. In the short term, the momentum has been great, especially today and even over the past couple of weeks. So looking at Tesla for tomorrow, what would you say are the crucial levels to watch in both directions?
Yeah, in both directions here. I'll start with the resistances here because I think that those might come into play more in the short term. And whenever I'm seeing those, the big one on the book map here coming up is 190, and we will actually be looking at that a little bit later. So go ahead and stick around for that. But 190 is going to be the first big resistance that I have coming up past 188, which Tesla almost hit today. That was almost the high of day. So those are huge levels there, Mike. Past there, honestly, the next major one is 192 and then $200. $200 is going to be one of the biggest resistance levels coming up. Over the past couple months, Tesla has had a lot of bounces around that $200 mark. I'll circle a couple of them here on the chart because there was quite a bit of volatility there. So keep your eyes on $200 over the next couple of weeks. I could see Tesla possibly getting up and extending to that. Now, for support, let's say there's a good pullback tomorrow, 182 is pretty big, and then 180 should be major under that. That was a huge level, and we've actually been talking about that on the book map all week long since Sunday night. So I'll definitely keep watching that 180. And then, of course, Mike, under there, 173 is also a pretty big support. So that's really what I'm watching with Tesla. But 180 tomorrow might end up coming into play if there is a pullback.
As we all know, Tesla is one of those stocks where when it's moving and when it has that true momentum and hype to it, it can get very crazy very quickly. But at the same time, if it is moving in a slower or choppier way, then sometimes it's just not worth trading. So either way, keep a close eye on Tesla for tomorrow. The movement today was awesome, and the short-term momentum has definitely been increasing. But another thing that we just have to talk about is NVIDIA and its giant earnings report set for tomorrow. This stock is very close to its all-time highs, right around that like $975 mark. This looks like a triple top on the daily chart, and many investors are, I guess you could say, biting their nails for this earnings report because it's going to be a very influential one in, either direction.
It really will, Mike. And with the stock being at all-time highs, I feel like it's even like more crucial right now than almost at any time throughout NVIDIA's past, right? Because we really need to see that good hype come in, or else it's going to start rejecting pretty hard. And if that happens, we might see a bunch of semiconductors start to fall, like ARM, SMCI, and others that have kind of benefited from some of the hype with NVIDIA recently. So I'll definitely be watching these earnings extremely, extremely closely. And like we talked about over the past couple days, there's going to be a lot of high expectations with these earnings, right? Like, will Tesla be able to beat these, will NVIDIA, sorry, I'm still on Tesla, Mike, but will NVIDIA be able to beat these earnings? That's going to be the big question, because the expectations are definitely going to be pretty high. And on the last report, it was pretty awesome. They ended up gapping up a ton into the next day, and I remember they beat the expectations by quite a bit. And I was almost blown away, Mike, with some of the numbers that I was reading there. So I wouldn't put it past NVIDIA to end up beating the expectations, but at the same time, it's like, if they don't, then that's going to be a big, big hit to shareholders. So I don't know, Mike. I definitely love the hype, though, and I'm not saying that they won't beat on earnings, but it's definitely one of those situations where, like, if I was a betting man, I would hate to bet against NVIDIA in this type of market.
No doubt. And as we look at NVIDIA stock, of course, a bunch of people will look to gamble on its earnings report. Obviously, that's a smart decision. It is a much more advantageous move to wait until the earnings already pass and then play the move after, because there's still a lot of opportunity riding the momentum after the earnings report as well. You don't have to try and predict not only what might happen in terms of earnings, but how the market might respond to that data. So consider waiting on the sidelines until after the report. But Tom, what else is on the earnings schedule for the week?
Yeah, so for the rest of the earnings here, Snowflake is pretty big tomorrow and after hours. That and NVIDIA are going to be two huge ones. Snowflake, I know, is pretty popular out there. Target also reports tomorrow before open. We might see some more news, like with how consumers are spending and etc. based on what Target ends up reporting. TJX is also reporting there, so watch that. Those are two pretty big stocks for tomorrow, Mike. But we all know everyone really wants to see NVIDIA and Snowflake. For the rest of the week, Ralph Lauren, TD Bank there. So not really too much after NVIDIA and Snowflake, but it's going to be pretty crazy, Mike. Like whenever you look at NVIDIA's chart, seeing them at all-time highs, you go out to the QQQ or the NASDAQ, which actually closed at all-time highs today, which was pretty cool. We're in one hell of a time for the market. So these earnings, especially NVIDIA's, are going to be so crucial. And I think QQQ could end up going berserk this week if these earnings are good. So it's a crazy time, Mike, and I know it's hard to sometimes play these breakouts, but they have been so fun in the short term.
There we go. And then another thing we just can't forget about for tomorrow is the FOMC minutes report. So at 2 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, the FOMC minutes report will drop. Essentially what this is going to be like a recap of the last FOMC meeting. These reports are important, but they're nowhere near as important as like an actual FOMC interest rate decision. But just keep that in mind for tomorrow. 2 p.m. Eastern time is when it'll drop, and we can definitely see some increased volatility off of an event like this one. But on one last piece of news before we get into some setups and predictions for tomorrow, Tom, there were some interesting developments with oil and I guess you could say energy prices lately. So what's going on there?
Yeah, I know a lot of traders have been seeing oil start to fall down here in the short term. They've been a little bit worried about oil, and I will say this makes me even a little bit more worried. Whenever I start to look at what happened today, Biden actually is trying to reduce gas prices ahead of the 4th of July, which I thought was pretty insane. So the Department of Energy said that they will start to release like 1 million barrels of gasoline to help reduce those prices. So that's going to be very interesting, Mike, and I don't know exactly what else they're going to be doing like with these reserves over the next few months, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see if they can get these oil prices and gas prices in general to start to fall down. And I think that they can. Obviously, we're a very we're one of the biggest energy countries in the world. So I would say that there's definitely a good chance that this ends up happening. So that does put it, I guess, a dampening on the oil movement in the short term. And I know we can go out and look at ZOM and Oxy and others that are right around resistance and highs. And I don't know about you, Mike, but I'm getting a little bit worried short term. I might even start to look at puts here in the short term on some of these oil stocks, depending on how some of the movement ends up playing out.
Yeah, these oil and energy plays in general were definitely looking like they had some bullish potential over like the past couple weeks and months as the tensions in the Middle East were escalating. But as those tensions have died down and as other events have kind of cooled off a little bit, so have energy prices. But of course, they're not in the clear just yet. But in the short term, they definitely are, looking pretty calm and just boring at the moment. But either way, keep a close eye on not only crude oil, but just oil and energy related stocks going forward, because these stocks do present some pretty good opportunities when the time is right. And as always, we'll definitely hit on them when that time is. But Tom, let's jump right into the good stuff for today, which are some setups and predictions. A stock I'm watching very closely right now is Walmart, and this is a pretty boring company, but it has been moving in a pretty great way in the short term. Today it popped up by 1.5%, and most people will look at that and say, oh, who cares? It's just a 1.5% move, but its options today actually moved up between 136% and around 218%. So it's definitely not bad on that side of things, but the price action has been great in the short term. I'm going to continue to look at it for an upside play, but I'll also say this. As we can see today, Walmart had a good move around open, and then it kind of like faded off for the rest of the day, and then as the end of the day got nearer, it slowly started to increase back up again. You do have to keep in mind that with stocks like Walmart, they tend to move in slower ways compared to a stock like Tesla or Nvidia or Coinbase or anything else like that. So keep that in mind. But either way, I'm watching Walmart for tomorrow. And in a perfect world, I would love to see a breakout above like that $65.25 area.
Man, Mike, everybody thinks of Walmart and they think of like a boring, slow-moving stock that doesn't do anything, right? But I'll tell you what, over the past few months, on this recovery since like the end of the beginning of December to now, Walmart's up around 30%. Like you said, those options did great. And on the way up, a lot of these green days have been awesome for the Walmart options. So I'm with you. I'll definitely keep my eyes on Walmart in the short term. This is some pretty crazy momentum here, and the options aren't bad. With my next or first play, I'm looking at Tesla. And I know we talked about this one a lot earlier, but I'm just looking for a nice continuation here. That was an awesome break of 180 today. I'm going to really watch 184 and 185 as like minor support for tomorrow. If it can stay above 185, I think that would be a great sign. I'll be looking for a push towards 190 and then 195, of course, before we get towards that key $200 mark. But looking at the book map, 190 coming up, like I said, is a huge level. You can see 176,000 shares stacked up there. And if I drag it out a little bit more and we actually see the $200 level, there's 408,000 shares stacked up right there. Like that is a huge level here on the chart. So I will be watching Tesla for a $200 touch over the next couple days. But for tomorrow, I think a nice run up to 190 would be safe.
That $200 level is like a brick wall, Tom. You said 400,000 shares stacked up there? That's quite a bit. So either way, keep a close eye on that level for Tesla. But if the momentum is strong enough, then we might see a break through it. But another stock I'm watching pretty closely is JP Morgan, and it is to the downside. So I talked about this one a little bit yesterday. They had their investors conference yesterday, and the stock definitely struggled quite a bit. And today it held its ground. around, but I would love to play JP Morgan in a bearish way if it can get back below that $197 level and just show some bearish price action. It's not all that surprising to see a pop-up today, especially given the bearish move from Monday. But looking at JP Morgan, in the short term, there's definitely been more selling pressure than buying pressure. And again, if we see a break below that $197 area, I can see this one having a good risk reward to the downside.
Yeah, that would look pretty good, especially continuing off that downside pressure from yesterday. That would be pretty big with JP Morgan. Like, whenever you go to the daily chart, that stock has been awesome this year. It's gotten pretty overextended, but we'll have to see what we can get with that one. With my next play, I'm actually looking at Citigroup in the opposite direction. They actually broke a pretty good resistance today around 64.60, and I thought that was amazing to see because they actually followed JP Morgan down yesterday, and I really love the strength that this stock had today to be able to get back and not even just get back to resistance, actually break it. So I will be watching this one tomorrow for a continuation up. I would love to see it break 64.90 to 65, but overall, I'm just looking for that nice continuation off of that strong move from today.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's jump right into the momentum plays for tomorrow. And with the first one, we have PENN to the upside.
Penn Gaming, yeah, starting to slowly but surely come back up 0.86% today. If it can break above 16.65 for tomorrow, I'll go ahead and look at a potential play to the upside.
All right, with the next one, we have CCL also to the upside.
Yeah, the cruise lines have been pretty hot lately. I thought this morning they were going to chop around, but it came back very well at the end of the day. If it can break above 16.35 tomorrow, go ahead and eye up calls or just a nice play up.
And with the last one, we have Meta for both directions.
META, another bad day for Meta, Mike. Even while the market runs towards all-time highs, go ahead and make them break under 462.30 for tomorrow. If they end up breaking above 465.50, then look at them to the upside.
Sounds great. So we have the upside level for calls and we have the downside level for puts with Meta. Don't forget about CCL and PENN for potential upside plays as well. These three stocks are on watch for potential day trades if and only if they rip through the levels Tom listed. The more consistent and powerful the price action is, the better the setups become. If they do not break the levels listed, then don't feel the need to force the trades. It's better to take no trade rather than a bad trade, and it's better to take, you could say, 1 to 2 high quality setups rather than 7 to 8 mediocre quality setups. But either way, it's now about that time to jump right into today's $2.24 million big money trade of the day, and we are looking at ticker symbol VALE. So today, the big money put around $2.24 million into the VALE 13 strike calls that expire on July 19th of 2024. Looking at this stock right now, these options are right at the money. They have some time to them. It's a, you could say, a good-sized big money play. VALE is in like the metals and mining industry, and many metals have been increasing in the short term, whether you're looking at gold, silver, copper, nickel, and many other metals have just been on the rise. And that definitely helps a metals and mining company. But either way, looking at this stock, it has been moving in a pretty good way over the past couple of weeks as well. I really like how these options are close to the money, and I'm excited to see how this one does.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty awesome stock. It doesn't look like one that's going to necessarily be like a stock that runs up, 5% on any given day or anything like that, but it's definitely one of those like nice slow movers. And the thing that I like about Vail is that kind of slowness. It really, in my opinion, allows you to hold the option a little bit longer and like kind of let you, just kind of set it and forget it, as some people like to say in the Discord. So I'll definitely be eyeing up this Vail play, Mike. The gold and just mining industry in general has been really awesome over the past couple months, and a lot of the big money plays on those have done extremely, extremely well. And I'll say this, whenever you start to zoom out on Vail, it is pretty low at the moment, and also from a technical standpoint, right on major support. So that's another really good sign here with Vail.
There we go. But either way, keep a close eye on this one. We have a very important day set ahead of us for tomorrow, not only because of NVIDIA earnings and the FOMC minutes report, but it's weird to even say this, but Tesla stock is starting to see some of the daylight. It's been quite a while since Tesla has been like the star of the show, and either way, it's good to see because it normally has some really good moves in the short term. Before we close out, I want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Mr. Longstrangle. Basically, they had a great post with DJT today in the Profits channel, and they've been a great member for a while now. So huge shout out to Mr. Longstrangle. Keep up all of the great work there, and if you guys are new to the channel, consider demolishing that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. It takes 2 seconds, and in every video, we normally cover in like 20 to 25 minutes or less everything you have to know about the market, charts you won't find anywhere else, and other important things to know, as well as multi-million-dollar big money trades. But Tom, do you have any final thoughts before we close out?
Yeah, I will say this. I know that you mentioned this earlier, Mike. Just be very careful playing NVIDIA earnings, guys. I know that it's very tempting out there. Just be very, very careful. It can be very risky in the short term, especially if you're doing stuff that's very far out of the money and also expires this week. That can come with a lot of risk. So, just realize it's like betting like on red or black at roulette. You never know how those earnings are going to play out, but hopefully we do see NVIDIA's earnings do a lot better, Mike. I would love to see a nice breakout here, and I would love to see it just also push the QQQ and the NASDAQ up to new all-time highs too. That was a great close today, up at new all-time highs. So if it just continues on this nice momentum and on this nice train, that would be amazing. So let's go NVIDIA. And guys, let me know in the comments how you think NVIDIA's earnings are going to go. Post if you think that they'll beat and the stock will move up. Who knows, Mike? Maybe they'll actually beat earnings, but it might not just wow people, and it might be a little flat, right? You never know how that reaction is going to be.
I was just going to say that. Sometimes you could have the company beat earnings, but the stock can still fall. So that's what makes earnings so not fun to play, especially when you're long volatility. But either way, keep a close eye on NVIDIA for tomorrow. We're set for a pretty exciting day. And besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and let's crush it tomorrow.